microphone on. Is that true? You think so? Good. Okay, right. So Mandy, can Mandy hear me? This is all a bit strange.
Yes, I can, Arthabandhu.
Good.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Are you ready to do the screen share, or are you already doing the screen share?
I haven't started. Shall I start now?
Yeah, that would be good if you could just. The first slide is just very slightly different. You've got a bonus picture, those of you at home.
Okay, one sec then.
Which was too blurry for a big screen, so. And what this is just a quote I'm very fond of, and I think it's sort of certainly one way of looking at dreams. I think it's very helpful sort of point of view. Probably how I approach my dreams, I'd say probably the strongest kind of philosophy or idea, if you like. I'll just give you a chance to read it. How's the screen share? Good. And I'll say something that makes it obvious we've changed image for you, Mandy. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, right. Okay, right. Well, I'll start talking then. So yeah, like Kusala Devi says, I've been a Buddhist for 20 odd years, and it was very soon after kind of coming along here and getting involved at the centre that I also sort of started to get really interested in dreams. In a way, I think I was interested in dreams before the Buddhist interest in dreams. So when I was a child and a teenager, I can think of I think my first girlfriend, I realised she was the one because of a dream, you see. And it felt quite like significant actually, that it made it really clear what was going on for me at that time. Anyway, I won't dwell on that story. I've moved on. But I had quite a few other dreams. There's one dream where it felt like it helped me sort of get quite a clear idea of what to study at university. So I had this one dream where I was walking into college, and there was kind of a glass door, a bit like that window across from me. And I could see my reflection as I walked towards the entrance. And I just quite spontaneously, I just said, okay, if there's magic in the universe, my reflection will give me a sign. And I was just walking like this, and my reflection went. So there was confirmation that there was magic in the universe. And at the time, that meant, the decision to study philosophy rather than something else that was less interesting was I think I probably decided anyway, but it was kind of affirmed by that little dream experience. And there were a few other dreams, but I'll run out of time if I tell you more. But just a few dreams without any sort of philosophy or ideas behind them, just the experience of having those dreams as a young person, I was just immediately struck that my dreams sometimes really show me things and are worth paying attention to. And I didn't have no one had told me that. It was just the experience in itself that was obviously true on not every dream, but like certain standout dreams. So when I, back to my early sort of days of being a Buddhist and getting involved in the centre here, one thing we worked in a shop in Broadmarsh selling gifts and things as a Buddhist livelihood business. And the team of us that worked there went to see Sangha, the founder of Triratna, visit him in Birmingham. And there was a bit of a tradition of going round for tea and cake and just having a bit of asking him a few questions and sort of just have being around him. And so a group of us went to meet him in this way, and I can't remember very much, but I remember him just saying somewhere amongst that discussion and the questions, he said, if you really want to know yourself, look at your dreams or be aware of your dreams. And then he said, if you find you might think you're a nice young man, but then you find yourself running around with an axe in your dreams. So that can be quite informative. And he sort of seemed to find that really funny. So that was all he said, really. But I remember immediately after that kind of trip to go and see him, being like, right, dreams is the thing. Right, I'm gonna get into this. And I went to Waterstones, just off over there, and found that it was pre-Amazon, I think, and found this. They had about one book, and I'd heard of lucid dreaming, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to look up that. I don't quite know what it is, so I'll go and see if I can learn to do that. And I found this little book, which was something like Learn to Lucid Dream in 30 Days, and it had a funny little thing to do each day, and it was quite effective. And I followed each day's instructions, and I'm not sure if it was 30 days, but I did quite soon have a lucid dream, and it was this, I was just quite a random sort of dream, and I was stood on a table with a glass of wine in my hand, and I just suddenly realized this is quite strange. Oh, I'm dreaming. And I thought, oh, I could do something. I can like act. I've got sort of free will now. And all I did was just let go of this glass, and it dropped and smashed. And as soon as it smashed on the floor, I was just sort of like really enlivened and sort of kind of quite blissful. This sort of, oh, I've kind of broken through into a different kind of experience. It really felt like a new world kind of opening up, even though what I was doing was quite kind of trivial, really. It wasn't that shocking what I was doing. So anyway, that was felt like quite a moment that I'd been reading about this kind of experience and not sure whether I could have it, or not sure if all the kind of descriptions of it were real, and then suddenly feeling like, that's it, and being quite moved by it. And then I just sort of did that more and more, sort of explored that world more and more, and really sort of quite naturally it started to integrate with my Buddhist practice. And I'll say a bit more about sort of a few of the practices around dreams that I was doing that you'll just see when I describe them. They're just very much what we're trying to do already as part of a Buddhist practice, but they're sort of dropped in just around when we're dropping off to sleep, yeah. Anyway, so I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. So yeah, I wanted to sort of stress, because I remember sort of a few people along the way sort of thought that maybe it was a bit of a distraction from Buddhist practice, the dream stuff. And actually, that really hasn't been my experience. That in some ways it's sort of informed my meditation practice and helped me sort of understand that in a different way. So I'll say a bit about what I'm getting at there. So you're probably familiar with a kind of mindfulness practice where in some the mindfulness that's taught in our tradition as a sort of secular mindfulness, they have something called the breathing space. Is that familiar with some people? And it's like a 3-minute mindful kind of moment. And in other traditions and other mindfulness teachers use things very similar. Like I think Thich Nhat Hanh had a bell, and at the retreats he ran, and you just sort of stop what you were doing for a minute or two, and just get into your body. Notice what's present in your mind, and it's very good if you, just as you're going about your day, and you have either you just remember to do it, or you have an alarm or a reminder of some sort, that you just kind of, okay, now I've been running around, or I've been occupied with all sorts of things. What's it like just to stop and just to put things down, even just for a few moments, just to pause. And then when you re-engage with the world, you're just you can just do that more creatively and perhaps with less kind of anxiety than before, and more awareness of how you're then engaging with your work or with others that you're with, or whatever it is that you're engaged with. So this can be used alongside sort of, if you wanted to have lucid dreams, that you can sort of do a little tweak. You can kind of turn this towards that as well. And the way of doing that is you do have your mindful moment, and then somewhere within there you just say, "Am I dreaming?" And you just ask that question, and you actually kind of look around. So it's a good thing to do with a mindful moment, because often when we're a bit stressed and a bit kind of rushed or unmindful in whatever way that might manifest for you, we're often a bit sort of narrow and either literally sort of looking at something and certain things, and only the useful things and the important things. And we forget the world's a lot bigger and the mind is a lot bigger. So that can be one thing you do, is you just sort of open your awareness in every way you can kind of imagine, really, but your visual field, just have a look around. Look at the unimportant corners and of the room, and look at the space, rather than just the objects and the stuff that was concerning you earlier. And with this reflection on is this a dream? Am I dreaming? You can just do that and sort of take in the kind of feel of your experience. Like a dream and waking life, if you start to look at them closely, you'll see there's a certain kind of, you almost say, kind of texture to the two of them, and a kind of atmosphere about the two different states. So you're just sort of starting to wonder, which one is this? Is this a dream, or is this waking consciousness? And then what you can do, what you might find as well, there's an image on the way. I'll just show you that in a moment. Something, if you're dreaming, you might find there's something strange. There might be someone looks a bit odd. I'm not going to pick on any of you. But one thing, so here's an image just to give you an idea of the sort of thing. The cat might have clothes on. So, sorry, I've skipped to the third one, Mandy, just to confuse you. The one with the cat with clothes on, if you can find it.
Yeah, got it.
And it could be any variety of sort of weird anomalies or inconsistencies. And it might be that you're talking to someone, and then you look away and you look back, and now they're your mother, or now it's your cat. Like, I've had people turn into cats and back and forth and all sorts of different things. But the dream experience, the dream realm, is just mind by itself. There's nothing for it to kind of steady it and anchor it down like there is in waking life with the matter around it. I'm not going to get philosophical and start asking if it's real or anything, but there's a definite kind of difference in the experience, that in the dream state, continuity can be really messed up, and what changes it often seems to be the emotions you're going through and the feelings and the associations. So it can, your girlfriend can quickly morph into some other girlfriend from the past, or all sorts of things of that nature. And one time I was dreaming, and there's a laptop over there that I'm pointing to, and it's a black one. And in the dream, it was like that. And I sort of turned around, did something, then looked back, and then it was a white one. And that was with practice, that can be enough that you kind of go, all right, it's a dream, okay. And then you're in this sort of awareness of your dream state. So then you can engage with it in a different way. So I've totally jumped ahead and done the slides in the wrong order. So now we're going to go back to slide number 2, please, Mandy. Which is quite weird because I can't see whether you're on slide 2 or not, but we are.
We are.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. So what I'm showing you here is examples of something called Hypnagogia. So the Hypnagogia is something you can experience. It's a state that we go through as we sort of transition from the waking state to the sleeping state. So they're like sometimes they're described as being like a hallucination, and it's less of like a dream. Is like you're in a kind of world, and you turn around and you've got a body and you move through it. But hypnagogia is like you're just aware of images kind of coming, passing through your mind. You might not be aware that it is hypnagogia. That's something you can train yourself to notice and recognize. So I've got just a few. I could only find these images to show you the hypnagogia. There's all sorts of different things. It's not all about cheese guitars and Spider-Man putting his hand in a bag, but in a way, like you're just sort of, as you pass into this hypnagogia, it's like you're just sort of dropping into the unconscious, and you just find all sorts of funny, random things bobbing around, floating around in there, and some of them just sort of pass across your eyes, as it were, and you can just notice this stuff. And what you can do, the reason I was bringing in this hypnagogia is that one of the ways into awareness of your dreams is to have awareness as you're falling asleep and as you're going through the hypnagogic phase. So what you can do is very simply practice a mindfulness meditation or a body awareness meditation. So it could be the breathing or your body, and you'll probably notice if you can stay present, that your body starts to become a bit kind of numb a little bit. Sensations start to change. You might feel a bit of a glow in the body, tingle, and then probably around about that stage. So it's different for different people, but that can be experienced by some people. You might start to see some of these images. They might be not so formed as these. They might just be patterns or shapes or a sense of a landscape. But hypnagogia can also be audio as well, or sounds. I was quite struck. I started having hypnagogic experiences before I read about them, which was quite interesting. And I was referring to it as thin sleep in my diary, and because it's sort of like just this little narrow phase, and then it's a dream. It's quite interesting. But anyway, the example of a sound one was I was just lying in bed, drifting off, and I was just thinking about something, and sort of aware I'm just sort of running something through my mind. And then gradually it started to have a Scottish accent, and it was this friend of mine talking to me, and at least it's shifted into me experiencing it as somebody speaking to me, and that's a good example of kind of audio sound hypnagogia. Was I going to say something else about that? I'm not sure what it was. So one thing I get quite a lot is hypnagogia when I'm meditating. So that image of where it says the breath is balls in a glass jar, and then it's suspended by threads. So it's sort of, sometimes that'll happen to me as I'm meditating. I'll get an image that comes with the breath, and it feels like the same experience as when you're doing it around sleep. But in meditation, you can actually feel that you're quite alert. You don't in the hypnagogic, you don't start nodding forwards or losing your body control like that. So you can actually find you're quite concentrated when you're aware of this hypnagogia. And if you can train yourself to sort of be mindful of it, it's really quite refreshing kind of experience. Somehow it's very energizing to sort of dwell in that awareness of this content of your mind. When you get kind of involved in it and start worrying about cheese guitars, it's more stressful. But if you can just sort of watch it with a kind of without grasping at what's going on, you don't get into the kind of confused stuff. You just sort of, you're just kind of with the energy of your mind, and that's when it's kind of refreshing. So I suggest you just try that if you're curious to just as you tonight even, like you can just, if you can remember, just to do a little bit of kind of meditation just as you're laying in bed. It's not complicated at all. You just do it and just see what happens. Just sort of watch your mind kind of pass through these bardos, kind of in between states, these different realms. And I found it quite interesting that there's quite a few of these things. So the Spider-Man experience, it says hypnopompia. I'm not sure how well you can read it on the wall. Hypnopompia is the opposite of hypnagogia. It's when you're coming out of sleep. So with practice as well, you can start to notice the images as you're coming out of sleep. And they have a slightly different character to them. Sometimes you can get a bit of wisdom in the hypnopompic somehow. It's sort of, I won't sort of go into that too much, but they have a different character. So I've found it quite amazing that just these states of mind or states of consciousness that you're having all the time, you're having every night and every morning. And we just, as a culture, we've just decided to kind of ignore them on the whole. And no one talks about them, and no one kind of values them. So they get missed, unless you've just suddenly got your own very curious mind around it. You just kind of miss it. But as somebody, if you want to sort of practice meditation, if you want to sort of explore the dynamics of your mind and learn what's going on, to be familiar with these experiences is really rich learning. And in a way, you I mean, it looks strange, like little men appearing in cheese guitars. I've said that about 5 times now. It's easy. I mean, I was preparing for this talk and I thought, what if someone asked me what's good about seeing the guitar? Or why is that important? And I thought, that's a good question, isn't it? But it's sort of like, well, it's about seeing your unconscious and seeing, like I said, seeing the dynamic of the mind. And there's other experiences, like I think that sort of illustrates what can happen, what you notice when your mind is quite kind of frothy and is a bit kind of distracted. But one hypnagogic experience I had while I was living at Adhisthana, the retreat center, I just had this sort of image that I was washing at the sink, washing up. And this is another thing about hypnagogia, that I'd been doing quite a lot of washing up that day. So it was there and it came back to me. That was what I was going to say about the voices. If you've ever done a work training where someone's talking at you all day, if I've done that, I get hypnagogia of that person, and it's quite, be on the lookout for it if you've done one of those. That's probably the best thing about work training days. So I had this hypnagogic thing of doing the washing up, and I'd pulled this knife out of the water, and then I was like, oh, this is hypnagogia, isn't it? And I was just holding this knife and I was going, it's not a real knife, it's illusory. And as I was doing it, it's just sort of thinking about it as a kind of contemplation of emptiness in a way. This knife is just my mind. It's just a kind of thought form. It's not real. And I sort of saw it as kind of light and transparent. So you can start to, when you know you're in that experience, you can start to kind of dig into it a bit and be curious about it. There was one image of a little, it wasn't a very good picture, so I left it out, but there's a little hand holding a pie. And I'd seen this woman in hypnagogic experience, and she had a pie. And I decided I was going to say to her, what's in the pie? And I thought, she won't know what's in the pie. And she just looked very scared and said, I don't know. But at the time, it felt like some sort of real deep inquiry into... Anyway, I'm not sure. Not sure about that example. Should have left it out. So there we go. That's a bit about sort of this thing of dropping into awareness of dreams through awareness of your body or the breath, and then awareness of this hypnagogic stage. And what happens generally is if you can kind of keep that awareness steady, which is quite a challenge, you can go through the hypnagogic and then into a full dream experience. And one teacher who I've worked with a bit, been to his workshops and things, he gives a good example which kind of works quite well for me. He said it's a bit like the hypnagogic stage kind of builds, and it's a bit like you're sat in a car and it's snowing and you're seeing these snowflakes land on the windscreen, and gradually it kind of completely covers this screen, if you like. And then you find that you're in a kind of dream world. So at first it was just these little separate images floating about, and then it's kind of fills out and you're in a dream. I had a odd experience of a hypnagogic image of a frog driving a car. I should have drawn this one, I've not done it yet. And I was kind of going, okay, right, I've got to be patient and let this kind of dream world kind of fill out. We need a bit more than just a frog driving a car. And then it shifted into being a dream with me falling out of the sky and landing on the bonnet of the frog's car. Anyway, I'm not sure people know what to make of these examples. But the frog looked very shocked. Let's just say that. So the next thing to mention, and that was I'm back to the cat with clothes on. This is the order I should have talked about it in. There's a way of becoming aware in a dream, which they call dream-induced lucid dreaming. So you're not going from being aware as you fall asleep into the dream. You didn't do that for whatever reason, but you're dreaming. And then you kind of realize you're dreaming somehow. And it probably, if you're doing these practices, it might be that you've kind of sort of got a habit of noticing if there's anything strange, if there's any cats with clothes on or other examples. Or you've been doing that kind of mindful moment quite a bit, and you've got a habit of just going, okay, what's going on? Am I dreaming? What's the feel of this experience? And then the other thing you add in is what they call a reality check. So if you think, oh, maybe I am dreaming, and it's good to do this reality check when you do those mindful moments in the day. I'm not sure which slide it is. I'll try and find it and then tell you what. This one, it's the one after the cat with the hands. Don't worry about reading the text. So what you can do, this is one reality check to test if you're dreaming or not. You hold your hand out in front of you, you shake it, and then you see, have you got the regular number of fingers, the number of fingers you started with. It's quite good to do it a few times, give it a few shakes. And so I've got some illustrations of there's hundreds of weird hands throughout my diaries. That's just a taste. Like I was saying, with the dream, not having something to anchor it being so fluid and so kind of like smoke almost, or just it's not like the waking world in that way. But if you do something like this, you're just going to have a crazy hand. It's going to go really weird. Or if you like spin around, that messes things up as well. Another thing you can try is pinching your nose and then seeing if you can still breathe through your nose. And in the waking state, obviously you can't, but in the dream, you're not actually pinching your nose, so it won't stop you. So that's a good test. I suggested that to someone recently who was blind, who said, oh, they can't do that. So anyway, there's all sorts of others. You can jump, and if you're dreaming, you might just not come down again. But you can just explore and invent your own. But basically, you're trying to find some way of proving to yourself that you're in the dream state or you're not in the dream state. So some of these might look a bit odd if you do all of those at once at work while everyone's looking. Yeah, so that's another way in to a lucid dream. So I said you can become aware of your hypnagogic and hypnopompic experience. So that's sort of extended what conscious awareness can be in to a little bit. And then you can be conscious in the dream. And then as you come out of the dream, the hypnopompic. But there's other sleep stages, but the others are harder to stay conscious of or have any experience of consciousness within. I think science is just sort of catching up now that it is possible. That there could be something going on in deep sleep states, but the Tibetan and various Buddhists and other traditions have been doing sort of meditation right through, so they maintain a kind of awareness in the deep sleep states as well. And then when in those experiences, there's no dreaming, or it certainly sort of becomes very subtle, the kind of experience of dreaming. But in the end, it becomes like you're just aware, and it's said that you're in a very blissful state of pure awareness. Sometimes it's described as a clear light experience, like there's this sort of mysterious experience of light as well. But it's one of these things that every time someone describes it, they kind of say, well, it's sort of like that, but not like that. And it's just this very refined experience. So I find that quite amazing that you can be aware and really sharply conscious 24 hours a day. And there's certain Tibetan, it's the Tibetan teachers I've heard most stories about, but one I've heard the story of that almost all day he's kind of meditating, sort of asleep at the same, in a sort of sleep state, but very sharp meditation. And there's one guy who was doing this and he sort of came out of this meditation for a moment, or this dream, and said, "Oh, can you get 5 cups? My disciples are on their way." And he just in this state, he was just somehow able to see a little premonition of what was coming just from that very pure experience. I'm not sure I'd want to just be sleeping all the time, but maybe it's very nice. So I've told you a bit about sort of getting into these dream states and the hypnagogia. But one thing I kind of found I learned was that you can get too kind of fixated on having the lucid dreams. Or I became fixated on having lucid dreams, get really frustrated if it didn't happen. But in hindsight, I started to realize that I was having lots of really interesting dreams that weren't necessarily lucid, but they were of a different quality to what they would have been if I wasn't doing these kind of mindfulness practices. So even though the practices weren't consistently kind of triggering lucidity, they were kind of doing something to my dream experience, to my experience as a whole. And I really emphasize that in a way for anyone interested in this. So you don't have to kind of go really intense and think that you've got to have these lucid experiences. Just to remember a dream and just dwell in a dream during the waking state is really valuable, I think, really. And I think we really underestimate or don't understand at all how helpful that is for us. And I'm quite sort of strong on the idea that that's to make it useful and to learn from your dreams. You don't need to interpret them. Certainly not in a sort of strong kind of way that you've got to sort of say, oh, this symbol's this and this is this. But actually, you just be with the story of the dream and the feel of the dream is enough. I've just done that a lot and sort of can feel, if you like, that works, that does something, that enriches me. It kind of makes me bigger. I know more of myself from being with my dreams. So that as well, like some of the lucid stuff, you can kind of explore that as well. So I'll just give you a little example of one thing I did in a lucid dream that sort of lent itself to that. It was a period where I was sort of wondering a bit, what should I do with my future? What should I do with my life? And I'd heard a dream teacher suggest you ask characters in your dream questions, or you ask them for advice. And I had got lucid in this dream, and I just saw this middle-aged man. The first person I saw, I said, "What should I do with my life?" He didn't seem that surprised. And he said, "Oh, we should go to Canada and become a..." No, first of all, he said, "Oh, yes, sorry, we're trying to put this back together." First of all, he said, "Oh, you should go to Canada and become a Boy Scout." And I was about 30 at the time, so I thought, well, that's obviously symbolic, isn't it? And then I said, "What part of my psyche are you?" And then he said, it just seemed really confused by that question. And 3 times I had to say it in different, and then in the end I said it in a very sort of simple way. "What part of me are you?" or something. And he said, "I'm your cosmic 8-year-old. And in the dream, as soon as I heard that, I just got really emotional, like it brought tears to my eyes. And I think I woke up at that point. And I thought that in a way sort of proved to me that I didn't need to find out what that represents. It had done something already. It kind of touched me, and I'd met my cosmic 8-year-old, who's probably was a bit sort of been ignored a bit too long. And I've done a few things that are a bit like going to Canada and becoming a Boy Scout. I haven't literally done that, but I've gone on a few adventures, and that seems to sort of meet that thing. And even that's slightly kind of interpreting it. But I think just hearing that sort of thing, or being with a figure from your dreams who sort of embodies something, some need or some wish, and you kind of sympathetically, kindly kind of are with them, you'll kind of be broadened by that. You'll sort of fill out, you're kind of gathering parts of yourself. So the next image is, I call this one the little people. Although some of them, the hair was about 6 foot something. And these little people is a phrase that Jung used for the figures in our dream, the beings and the creatures and the people that kind of occupy our dream worlds. And in his writing and in what he practiced himself was, in a way, trying to kind of connect and commune with the little people within us. And what I think you'll find, actually, the more you meet the little people, the more they kind of grow, and the more you meet sort of bigger presences in your dreams. So the hair figure was in a dream that really felt quite strong and archetypal. I'll say a bit more about that shortly. But I get quite a lot of little tiny things, like cats that are far too small, and I'm looking after them, and I'm worried someone's going to step on them. Or lots of little birds that I've come to call the birds of joy. And the little birds, that's me in the bed, if you obviously. And this, I was quite moved by the dream. That little strange creature is a little worm hanging on the end of his finger. And he came to me and was like, thought I'd want a worm, and sort of gave me this worm. That was a very sort of touching dream. That's Vivienne Westwood and her dancing dogs. So just a few to give you a taste. The robot woman, I'll tell that story a little further on. So yeah, I think I got quite into reading some of James Hillman, this Jungian influenced analyst, and he writes a lot about dreams and images. Some of it is really hard. I don't understand what he's talking about, but there's one chapter that made sense, and he writes about, he's sort of talking about dreams in a way. He says the house of the psyche is like a great big house, and it's always new bits are being constructed and new basements are being found, and you sort of, if we engage with the psyche or through dreams is one way, we'll find there's this vast place for us to explore. And he says there's a pantheon of gods within the house of the psyche, and they're just waiting for us to kind of notice them again, waiting for us to kind of find them. And it begins with just sort of noticing the life within your dreams. And then the more you do that, the more it kind of becomes quite vibrant. I don't think my dreams have always been this sort of colourful and playful, but through mindful engagement with them. I'd say also sort of bringing metta into your dreams and having that as a foundation as well really starts to bring colour into your dreams, and these characters come alive. And one of the things is we can kind of go into our dreams and be quite kind of controlling and sort of, or fearful, and we kind of back away from things, and we end up kind of limiting what the dream can show us. We might even literally kind of wake ourselves up if it just overwhelms us a bit. But one of the lessons I've learned is that the more you can just kind of receive what the dream has, the more it kind of really flowers, and yeah, it becomes quite beautiful and colourful. I'm not sure what the next picture is. I'll just see. Oh yes, so this is a bit like the house of the psyche. This is the image with the stairs. Next one, yeah, thank you. I had quite lots of dreams of exploring the Buddhist center in a kind of weird version of it. And quite a few would be like, there's something scary about this exploration. I suppose that's what it's like, even when it's just not in the dream kind of illustrates what it feels like to be on a kind of journey of growth and exploring your depths and your shadows. It feels like it's dangerous. It is, in a way, it is dangerous. Yeah, so I sort of explored these places, and then you can just about see there's a duck-billed bear through that. And he's walking around a maze. That's me. And up there, and I've had a few bear dreams. That was the only one where he had a duck's bill. I haven't really questioned what that's about. And these are the early bear dreams. So there's a kind of, oh my God, there's a bear. It's just sort of discovering the bear. And this is one little drawing I found recently, quite an old one, and it was like kind of coming. Oh, sorry, next picture, Mandy. Thank you, Kusala Devi. Oh, we're 2-1. Next one. Yes, that's the one. So yes, it's coming. So I'm kind of like realizing there's a great big bear, sort of, which I don't know what to make of. It could kill me, or who knows. But it doesn't know I'm there, and I'm like. Ugh. And then it was just this week, I suddenly thought that I've got another few images. And I thought, oh, it's like the ox herding pictures. There's a Zen teaching that's sort of done with these illustrations. So the next picture is the rear end of an ox. So it's a bit like that. There's the ox herding pictures of these 10 images of a young man sort of finding an ox, taming an ox, and then he kind of rides into town playing a flute, sort of sat on its back. There's a few other images with it as well, but one of the early ones is he's like seen some footsteps, ox hoof steps, and then he sees the back end of the ox. And then the next image is sort of if you put the next one on, is he's sort of trying to get hold of this ox and start to train it or discipline it. My bear dreams weren't quite like that. I was a different approach, a bit more metta involved. And then, yeah, so the last image, I didn't manage to find the big enough one from that slightly different version of them, is him riding along. It's all very easy now, and he's playing his flute. So this, just to remind you, so we've got me and the bear, rear view, and then this is my bear resolution image, and that's not a vibrator, it's a hippo's tusk. But it's clearly phallic, I'm not going to deny it. So in the dream, the bear chases a wild boar and like tears it to shreds, and it gives me this gift of the tusk. And this was slightly confused me because I went back and checked my diary of like several years ago, and that wasn't the dream, but that was what I remembered the dream as now. And I thought, oh, that's a sort of accidental active imagination, what Jung talks about, where you reimagine the dream and you just let it kind of live again, and it might take a different course, and you might kind of grow, or it might change, and that's a very sort of useful way of processing and just sort of developing and working with your own images. And you do it quite kind of without kind of, it's not your ego mind kind of writing a story with a lot of self-consciousness. It's quite organic. So the fact that I sort of accidentally remembered it completely wrong. I keep looking at old dreams because I've been doing this zine from my old diaries. I'm remembering them all wrong. They're all, I'm sort of seeing them from where I am now. I suppose that's the point. So that bear brings me phallic gift, and then the ox herding pictures, and then this is quite a traditional way of depicting a tantric yogi, the next image. He's riding a tiger. So this is a sort of symbol, if I was to interpret it, it's a bit like the tantric yogi is sort of what they're about is meditating with strong, deep energies that are part of us, a part of them. And again, kind of taming them and being able to ride a pregnant tigress is often the how they describe the tiger. It's even more fierce than just riding a normal tiger. And just this week, the ox herding pictures, and then this, I was like, well, that's sort of echoes of my dream. Interesting. So yeah, that's a little bit of a series of dreams just to show you, in a way. So this sort of, I've noticed a kind of evolution of dreams, or a kind of development of dreams. And I think if you practice the Dharma and dream and notice what's going on in your dreams, you'll see in a way your themes of your dream, they don't just repeat like they might have done without that spiritual practice. They things get resolved. Images kind of move on, and images grow and become something fuller and deeper. So the hairman was a good example of this. This was on the Sangha retreat. So if you go on a Sangha retreat, that's good. I recommend it. We were walking, a few of us, and I saw this hare in the field at Castleton. During the day, this was. And then that night, I dreamt of a hare. And it wasn't like that. It was a normal hare. And I saw this hare, and it started to just sort of run directly towards me. And then it started to spiral, getting ever closer and closer. And I just felt, this is really eerie, I'm scared. It's only a hare, but in the dream, I was like, whoa. And then I became aware it was a dream, because it was just sort of triggered by the strangeness of it. And what I decided to do was sort of nothing, like I was afraid, so I was sort of tempted to turn and run or splat the hair or something like that. But I decided, okay, I'm just going to use the awareness just to stay still and see what happens. And it's a bit like I was saying earlier, that if you sort of step back, as it were, the dream just kind of shows you things and opens up. And that was sort of, this is how the hair kind of opened up. He turned into a 6-foot man hair with an eagle owl on his shoulder, and he just stood there looking at me, and I was sort of, and just that experience of being with this kind of energy that he seemed to have, like a real person in the experience, did something. And very, very quickly I sort of woke up, and but again, it's sort of, I sort of think of it like, oh no, he's, as well as the bear, he's one of my allies. He's with me. He's, yeah. And this is Mothman. Next image. Sorry, I'm not quite seeing David's face. What have I done wrong? But it's very helpful. Thank you. So in a way, just sort of, it's kind of echoes of the other dreams I've talked of. That I think now I've kind of got this habit of, there's a weird, big, strange, what I might have seen as a scary creature in the past, and now I'm like, I'm going to go and fly over and see him. And I think, you think your dreams would just change in that way. If you can kind of broach something that scares you, in the end, you'll just, you'll start to really sort of find actually there's joy in sort of encountering all these aspects. I think this was after, anyone seen that film, The Shape of Water? With that, the figure was a bit like that creature. We've not got long, but there's that one. And so there's a few dreams that really strike me. I'm not sort of trying to communicate anything to you about myself particularly tonight, but just how in dreams you can just be all sorts of different sides of yourself, and you can really be surprised by what you kind of, how you appear. Like it reminds me of that Chinese story of the man who dreamt he was a butterfly, and then when he woke up he wasn't sure if he was a butterfly dreaming he was a man. Have you heard that story? But it's in dreams, it's that fluid that usually it's unusual that you dream you're someone else, or you're very different to your normal self. But in Tibetan dream yoga, which is sort of the Buddhist version of lucid dreaming with a bit more thrown in, one of the practices is you actively transform yourself into different beings, and you transform yourself into a bodhisattva figure in some practices. So this sort of practice of realizing your dreamlike nature, and then just that understanding, you're just going to be someone different. You're just going to transform. To be able to do that in your dreams crosses over into waking life. I'm not sure you'll start changing, but you'll be free to rethink yourself and break habits and be creative in waking life with that kind of perspective. Yes, so I've been a banana as well. But in this dream, I found myself thinking, that's quite good that I felt quite free and flew off. But maybe I should have stopped to ask what their problem was. Is there anything I can do? Can we just talk about this? Banana to banana. So this is I'll just tell you this last one. Don't worry if you can't read the text. We're on the next one. Thank you, Mandy. Next. Oh, that's great. You got it. So this one, I in the dream again, like quite a few sort of identity shifting ones. I was the robot. This is meant to be sort of quite female-looking robot, which I haven't quite managed. I was in this robot body, and I was just sort of stood there on this strange planet, and this big ship lands, and all these balls start kind of rolling across the planet, and they're sort of measuring everything and scanning the whole thing, and I'm sort of frozen, going, "This is terrifying." And then the getting scared is often a trigger for lucidity for me, or it has been. I realized it was a dream. And as soon as I realized it was a dream, I became my normal body, this just there. And then I was at Adhisthana, I think I was meditating a lot, so I felt quite sort of confident and steady. And I'd been doing a lot of 6-element practice, so sort of reflecting on the emptiness of things and how things really changeable. And I just held out my hand and decided I was going to make one of these balls kind of come to me, and it went, and I just sort of looked at it thinking, it's emptiness. It's not fixed. It's not. It's empty of anything fixed. And as I was sort of just thinking this, it turns into this green bird. Not with me willing it to do that, but just quite spontaneously transforms and it becomes something that is often a sort of symbol of joy in my dreams. So I just totally went off piste in the end and just told you lots of stuff, but I better stop. So thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful, and I'm afraid I've not left time for questions. And the zine is going to be available for sale downstairs, and there's a link should be a link going out to you online. So thank you, everybody.